Today, I'm going to learn 25 mistakes Americans make when visiting Europe. As somebody who's going to be visiting Europe, this is going to be extremely helpful for me. Not really sure what mistakes people are making, but Walter's World is going to help me out make sure that I don't do them as well. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. My name is Jacob. Hit that like button, and let's just get straight into it.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Walter's World, and today we're in Athens, Greece. We've got the Acropolis behind us with the Parthenon up on top. And today I want to talk about are some of the mistakes that tourists make the first time they come to Europe, or maybe the second or third or 17th time they come here. And the first mistake I hear a lot of tourists make, and it kind of irks the locals when you are here throughout Europe, is really just the idea that you're saying that it's all Europe, like thinking Europe is all the same thing, and it's not. Everywhere you go throughout the continent, you're going to have different people, different vibes, different food, different experiences, because Portugal and Poland are totally different.
I've already seen this quite a bit in the comment section of people saying, Europe is not a country. I get it.
Versus cabbage, it's just a whole different thing. And so just kind of lumping everything together isn't something you should really do. That's why it's important to explore more of Europe than just going to London or Paris or Rome or whatever. There's a lot more to see and more to explore. So don't make the mistake of thinking you're going to one place in Europe, you've seen all of Europe, okay? And another mistake I think people make is when they're planning the European trips, they only explore Europe, meaning Germany, France, Italy, and they don't explore more. Think about getting some of the beautiful places in Eastern Europe. Tallinn, Estonia is gorgeous. Riga, Latvia, Vilnius, Lithuania. Going down to Southeast Asia, seeing Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia is just amazing. And people kind of leave that out because they think, oh no, I need to go to London, Paris, and Rome. Maybe I'll stop at Munich for Oktoberfest.
Literally, like, the first places I was mapping out on my first trip, at least, is like London, Munich. And I don't know if I thought about Paris, but I definitely wanted to hit London and Munich. And I mean, you can't really blame us, but I do want to see basically everything. But it's just funny that those were like the first ones that I was kind of like choosing to go to. Yes.
Especially if you're looking to come in summertime.
Oh, really quick. We have a Parthenon here in Nashville. Let me pop it on the screen. So I've already seen it. Totally kidding. I want to go see the real one that is not fully redone.
It's really, really packed with tourists. By exploring some of these other parts of Europe, you really do get a whole different vibe, like I said, but also you might get a lot less tourists, so you can really enjoy the culture a lot more. Now, no matter where you are in Europe, another mistake I see people make is using ATMs indiscriminately. Look, there are private ATMs, and then there are ATMs at banks. And if you're a traveler, you should try to stick with ATMs that are in banks, because they're usually giving you a better rate. They're usually not like ripping you off, let's say, because sometimes the private ones can have excessive fees, or they do what's called, hey, we'll give you the conversion, which basically gives you a horrible exchange rate, but tells you, oh, but we'll let you know exactly how many dollars are going to come out of your bank account. That can be a really big ripoff. Like, I've seen 20-30% differences in exchange rates versus the official rate versus what they gave you in those private ATMs. So just be aware of that. And the thing is, if you get the offer when you're paying with a credit card and they say, oh, you want to pay in euros or dollars, I personally always choose euros because I feel my credit card company back home gives me a better exchange rate than the conversion that the hotel and restaurant are graciously offering me, or ATM. And here's the thing, some of those hotels and restaurants, they don't know about that difference, so they're just trying to help you out by charging you in dollars. Don't do that. So always just pay in euro, okay? Don't do the conversion. Another mistake people make is they start speaking louder when people don't speak English. Look, if people don't speak English, speaking louder doesn't really make a difference. It just makes the situation more awkward. So just know that, hey, if not everyone will be speaking English here. Know a few words, it goes a long way. But that speaking louder part, I mean, I'm here in Athens, and honestly, when you're here,
I'm going to just learn how to say I only speak English in like all the languages of the countries I go to. I would never speak louder. I may get a little loud from time to time here in the, in the studio when I make videos, but in real life, I'm like a very quiet, stern, held back person. So that's that thing though with Americans that we just get loud.
Most of the tourism people do speak English, but yeah, you can tell when the people didn't speak perfect English, they just started speaking louder. Don't make that mistake when you're here, okay? And another mistake that my mother would make sure I wanted to tell you is, Look, don't make the mistake of thinking it's easy to find a free or clean or nice toilet whenever you need to go.
What?
Look, when you're going by your hotel, hop in to use the restroom. When you see a nice bathroom, use it, because some places you might have to pay, like in Germany and Austria, you pay to use the toilets in a lot of places when you're there.
What?
I mean, they're clean, so you don't mind, but you have that. Other places, I mean, we've been in the islands of Greece, and we've been in places around Italy where it's literally like a hole in the ground that you're squatting over, like a porcelain hole. So finding a great toilet isn't always a great thing or an easy thing to do, so make sure you use the services when they are nice, if you're not sure if you have to.
All right, good to know. And I have seen those hole-in-the-ground toilets before. I mean, I guess Greece maybe. The only time I've ever seen them in videos is like from India. So I didn't know you guys had them in Europe too.
In Lisbon, Portugal, and our next mistake that tourists make
In certain countries in Europe. Not Europe, the country.
is they think the train is the only way to get around Europe. Because, you know, for the longest time you hear about Eurorail and Interrail, and I'm riding the rails through Europe. Yes, you can do that, but here's the thing. If you take those cheap airlines, you can get from Paris to Berlin a lot faster than you can taking the train, or going from the north of Italy to the south of Italy. That can save you a lot of time and give you more time to explore the cities. So don't think it's the only trains that are things you can do to get anywhere. Airplanes can get you places as well. But
I do want to ride the
also think
trains.
this is also a mistake if you only use the planes to go around.
Yeah.
Because sometimes taking the train is actually going to be faster, because you get on the train in the middle of the city, you don't have the security checks, you get on, you go to your destination, you get off, you're right in the town, so you don't have to worry about the taxi out to the airport, the getting there 2 hours early, the taxi back in, or the public transportation in. You don't have that. So you want to make sure you're balancing the timing of the flight versus the train when you're getting around. Now, another
All right, good to know, but I do want to ride the trains. I guess this depends on how long I'm there for. If I'm there for like 10 days, I might hit a plane, I guess, if I'm going a little bit far, but I want to ride the trains. It's like, I feel like that'd be such a cool experience. Never been on a train my entire life, so looking forward to it.
embarrassing mistake I see tourists make from all over the world. They come here to Europe, and I know Europe's different everywhere you go, but they speak their own language, and they think the locals won't understand. You'd be surprised how many Europeans speak 5, 6, maybe 7 languages. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an American that lived in Europe, and I speak Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, English, German, French, a little bit of Lithuanian, and I can understand things. And I'll be sitting there and here in Portugal, and Lithuanians will go by and they'll start talking about people, and I'm like, don't say that, that's not nice. So don't make the mistake of thinking people won't understand you if you're talking behind their back. That's a really big thing that happens in hostels when you're like, dude, I know you're talking about how you're gonna rob my backpack, come on. So be aware of that one. Another mistake people make is they only go to the big cities. I'm only gonna go to Lisbon and Porto when I'm here in Portugal. I'm just gonna do Berlin, Munich, Prague, and Budapest. Yes, those are all big cities, and they're all fantastic to visit. But if you want to get a little more better taste of the local culture, I recommend either throwing in some day trips. So if you're in Berlin, go to Potsdam. If you're in Munich, take a day trip and go to Nuremberg, or go to Bamberg or Regensburg. If you're here in Lisbon, go out to Évora and see the UNESCO World Heritage Site that is Évora. Go to Óbidos, and it's going to give you a better understanding of the culture than the big cities will. So don't just do the big cities. Don't make that mistake. Go out and explore, even if it's just a day trip from a big city. And that's why it leads into my next mistake, is people don't use public transportation, not just to get around, but also to get to those day trips, because public transportation throughout Europe will make your life so much easier, and they can make what you think is a daunting ride or drive or whatever into an easy day trip. Going out to Potsdam, like I said, from Berlin. If you're in London, you can do the train and go up to Cambridge, or go see Oxford, or go to Canterbury, right? You can do all these things on a simple day trip. So don't pass up the public transportation, not just in town, but also just to use it for day trips to go see things. And you know, I was talking about public transportation.
The only thing I'm going to be taking while I'm there is public transportation. So not to worry. I'm not like renting a car while I'm there. I'm like, no, I'm just doing public transit, and that is it.
Getting you to those day trips. But I think another public transportation thing, another transportation mistake I see people make, is they don't pre-book their tickets for popular routes, okay? So if you're going to be going Venice to Rome, or you're going to be going Barcelona to Madrid, you need to book your tickets early to make sure you get a seat reservation. But also you want to book early, because if you book early, a lot of times in Europe, the tickets are sometimes half the price if you're booking early. I know we saved hundreds of euros by booking our tickets early in Italy last summer, and it saved us so much money just because I booked beforehand. And when I've been on the train, I've also seen another mistake that tourists make. A lot of times I see it as US tourists, but other tourists as well, Brazilians I've seen do this, the tourists from everywhere, is overpacking. Look, you're not going to have a lot of space when you're here, when you're in Europe, whether it's in the taxi, whether it's in the train, whether it's in your hotel. You're not going to be able to spread everything out. So when you're packing, don't overpack, maybe underpack, because you know you can buy everything here in Europe, right? You can do that. But honestly, that's a mistake I see people make. Like, they're trying to get 3 suitcases on a train in Italy.
No, you ain't gonna catch me doing that. First trip, I think I'm coming with my brother. We weren't gonna do the wife and all the family out there. So me and my brother were gonna go out there. We've been wanting to go forever. And he's got some friends that live in Europe, a couple of different countries. But we're men, so I literally can take a backpack and I'm cool. Maybe like a small carry-on suitcase. If I gotta bring a suitcase, that's fine. But 3 suitcases? Seriously? 3 suitcases? That's insane.
You're like, look, there's nowhere to put it. They're staying in a hostel, they're staying in a hotel or apartment thinking they're gonna have all this room and it's a single bed and there's just not the room for your stuff. So overpacking can be a mistake. It also makes you more of a target to get robbed because if you got 3 bags, I'm gonna steal 1. You can't run after me with the other 2. Even fat me, you couldn't catch. And
is there a lot of robbings? Like a lot of theft?
going back to that pre-booking thing, it's not just mistake of not pre-booking travel, also making a mistake of not pre-booking certain sites, because some sites book out way in advance, like the Alhambra in Granada in Spain. You got to book that thing out like weeks in advance, otherwise it sells out. I mean, if you're going to go in June and July, make sure you're booking it like in April to make sure you get a spot,
so cool.
Because if you just show up thinking you're going to get in, you're going to be out of luck. The Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, you need to go a few days ahead and go online and book your ticket so you can get in instead of being in that huge line or not getting in at all. Now to continue this, let's go to another part of Portugal. So now we're here in Évora, Portugal, a UNESCO World Heritage.
Kudos to the guy. If you guys haven't seen him, his name's Walter's World. Check him out. He's doing a fantastic job.
Site. And the next thing I want to tell you in terms of mistakes I see American tourists make when they come to Europe is really not reading the menu before they start shoveling food in their mouth. What I mean, in places like Portugal and Spain, you'll notice that sometimes they'll have bread on the table, they'll have olives there, and you think, oh, back home, chips and salsa, everything's free. Well, here in Europe, sometimes those things are free, sometimes they're not. So it's important to look at the menu, and it might say, oh, the pan is €1.60, oh, the olives are €2, or the cheese is €5, you know, these kind of things. And 'cause
wait, they put food on the table without you ordering that's not free? Am I hearing that correctly? That seems kind of wild. I mean, good thing to know that, like, I would check, but it seems like if they put food, like bread or something on the table, I would just assume it's free. I mean, we have that, you know, you go to an Italian restaurant, they're gonna put bread on the table. If you go to a Mexican restaurant, chips and salsa, like he said, so, all right.
Because I've seen tourists get really upset when they've eaten things they thought were free, and then their actual bill was a lot more than they expected because they didn't know, okay? So don't make the mistake of just eating what's there. Make sure you check to see if it is included, and if it isn't, feel free to say, I'm good, you can take it away, and you won't have any problems. Because I also have had people that were sitting at the beer gardens in Germany, they had the baskets of pretzels there, and they start munching these big pretzels. I'm like, dude, those are like €5 each. Like, there's no sign. It doesn't matter if there's not a sign. You're gonna have to pay it, all right? So do be aware.
I'm just gonna eat it and pay for it anyway. We're talking pretzels here? I'm like, whatever. I'll pay $10. If I get a German pretzel, an authentic German pretzel.
Mistake. Another mistake I see people make when they travel to Europe is they only eat kind of the national dishes of the country that they know from back home. So you're going to Germany, oh, I'm going to have a bratwurst when I'm in Germany. Well, actually, if you're in Berlin, you should have a currywurst. And if you're in Bavaria, you should have a Weisswurst, the white sausages. There's different sausages you should have in different regions. Here in Portugal, having food from Alentejo is very different than if you're up by Porto. So you want to kind of think about that. And so sometimes it's even just appetizers. I know for me, patatas bravas are my favorite tapas to have when you go to Spain, like little things to eat.
That looks so
and that's
good.
all over Spain. But the thing is, if you're in Cordoba, you want to have the fried eggplant. That's the best tapas to have. But you don't know that. So make sure when you're going to restaurants, ask them, what are some of the regional dishes that are here? And what's nice is a lot of the smaller towns, they will literally say on the menu, these are our regional dishes. This is what you should have when you're here. So don't make the mistake of only eating the national things. You know, I mean, yes, still have them. Like, I still had a lot of patatas bravas, but don't miss out on having those local specialties too. Another mistake I see a lot of tourists make when they come on vacation, I mean, it's vacation, you want to relax, but when you're coming to Europe for vacation, sleeping in is a mistake. Museums close maybe 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night, and therefore if you're sleeping in till noon and having lunch and then you get to actually start seeing sites at 3 in the afternoon, you'll only have time to see one museum or one site. So get up early, go see some sights before lunch, have your nice lunch, see some stuff afterwards, and then go to bed early if you need the extra sleep instead of sleeping in and missing out on seeing things. And honestly, a lot of times when I film, I'm actually filming in the morning because it's a lot quieter. You can see the city without tourists running you over. And the thing is, if you're getting up early and you're walking around and exploring and seeing the sights, you start building up your hunger, right? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people forget that there's a lot of lunch specials here in Europe. If you're in Spain, Portugal, Germany, I mean, I've gone all over, and a lot of places will have a special menu for lunch.
Just gotta stop showing me food. Gosh, making me hungry.
Where I can have a more traditional meal or a nice meal that might be more expensive at nighttime, and I have it at lunch, I can save some coin, okay? So save your money, have that big meal at lunch. Now, another mistake I see tourists make is kind of professing their family lineage when they're here in Europe. For example, I know a lot of Irish Americans, when they go to Ireland, they say, I am Irish, my great-great-grumpity-grump came over in 1785, and my great-great-grumpity-grump came over in 1851. And they're so proud, like, I am Irish. Or people come here, oh, my family is Portuguese. What you have to realize is, yes, that's important to you as an American coming here or a Canadian, but for the Irish, they're like, dude, you weren't born here. You didn't grow up here. You're not Irish. The Portuguese, were you born here? Did you grow up here? Do you have the saudades of the homeland? No. Then you're not really one of us. And that's one thing that I've seen like really hurt some kind of tourist feelings when they feel like, hey, my family's from Italy, you know, my family's from Spain, and they're like, that's nice, and it doesn't mean as much to the locals here as it does to the tourists that come here. And an expensive mistake I see tourists make is when they come to Europe, they don't get a data plan or an international phone plan when they come here, and then they get an insane, horrible bill from their phone company.
I didn't even think about phone. I guess I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm sure somebody would have told me.
Because they've been traveling all over Europe. So please don't forget to get that. Don't make the mistake of not having that plan, okay? And make sure you check all the countries you're going to go to, because sometimes all the countries are included, or sometimes, oh no, one small country isn't, and you could get nailed that way. All right?
Yeah.
So let's go to another part of Europe to talk about some other of the little mistakes that we see tourists make when they come here to Europe. Now we're here in Nafta, Greece, and my next mistake I see tourists make is when they're booking accommodation here in Europe, they only book based on price. You're like, oh, that's a cheap place to stay.
Look at the water in Greece. Oh my gosh. It's like so blue. Oh my cow. Holy cow.
Hey, we'll go there. Like, I'll see tourists going to Rome, and they'll literally stay on the outskirts of Rome because it's, 30% less than staying in the city. And I gotta tell you, when you're wasting 30 minutes or 45 minutes on public transportation going in and going out to the center, or if you miss a connection, you got to take a taxi for 30 or 40 minutes, are you really saving money and are you really saving time? So I think it's really important for you to balance the price and location of accommodation when you do come here, because if you can stay in the historic part and enjoy the entire time you're here versus having to spend hours in transportation going back and forth, that might be a mistake you want to look into, okay? Now, another mistake I see tourists make is they don't kind of brush up on the geography, history, culture, and language of the country they're going to visit. Now, I'm not saying...
By the time I go, which hopefully will happen before the end of the year, we'll say. We'll see. I don't know. I was pricing out airline tickets earlier today, and yeah, it might take a little bit of time for me to be able to go out there. But yeah, when I come out, like, I should have a good understanding of the geography and the culture. I'm already learning so much. There's like certain things that he's saying I'm already picking up on that I've seen in another video.
You have to be a completely fluent person in Greek when you come here, or know the intricacies of Greek history when you're there. But just having a rough idea of the historic background of the country you're going to, the geography of the country, so you know where are the mountains, what are the good places you want to go, where are the main cities located, because if you're coming to Nafta and you tell people, oh, it's a Nafta, they go, oh, did you go to Mycenae? Because it's literally like 13 kilometers outside of town. It's right there, and if you don't know, sometimes you miss out. And by understanding a bit better the culture, the language, the people, it can really help. Because honestly, an efharisto or a parakalo, a thank you or you're welcome, goes a long way here in Greece to get a few extra ouzos on the table. And it helps you understand the culture better and helps get more out of your visit, because then you kind of understand how things are. Now, another mistake I see tourists make when they travel is they don't find out about local festivals. Now, yes, there are the world famous ones like Oktoberfest and the running of the bulls in Pamplona. You have those things that people know about. But local festivals, we were in Malta during their festas when their parties were going on with the fireworks and the streets all done up. And it's a really fun time. Go to the Festas Populares, the Saints festivals in Portugal in June. I mean, you have all these festivals going to the Christmas markets in Germany and Austria at Christmas time. I mean, there's so many great festivals that sometimes people miss.
Going in Christmas time would be so cool. Oh gosh, maybe like maybe next year I could go in Christmas time. I feel like that'd be an awesome time to visit.
Because they just don't know. We were in Cordoba, and I took students there, and part of it was because it was the week that the Cordoba Feria, the fair, was going on. So everyone's dressed up in the fancy clothes, and the parties are going on, and it's a really great thing. But you don't want to miss out on that, because those are one of those times when you get to see a lot of like cultural dances, like cultural events, cultural clothing, folk stuff. I mean, it's really a cool thing to see. So make sure you don't miss out on some of those. And if you hear that, oh, there's a festival going on in the village down the way, hey, you know what? We need to go to Tolo and go to the festival that's nearby. Now, another mistake I see tourists make is they forget that here in Europe, a lot of times you got to pay for some of the extras. You want a bag to put your groceries in? You're probably going to pay for that. You want ketchup with your fries, or maybe more than one packet? You're going to probably have to pay for that. And I've seen people get upset. Like, I've seen people in Prague go over the counter because they were so mad that they didn't get free ketchup. Look, the little extras here, don't make the mistake of thinking it's included. Whether it's the bread on the table, the cheese on the table, you know, the bags at the store, just realize that sometimes you got to pay for those little things, you know, like sometimes you got to pay for the toilets in certain spots, right? So
paying for the toilet is wild to me, but obviously I wouldn't mind, especially I'm sure he said it's like €1, like €1 or €2 or something. I wouldn't care, but that one does seem a little crazy that there's like no public restroom.
Do be aware of that, and don't make the mistake of thinking everything's free or everything should happen just because I think it should. You need to be aware of that. And another mistake that I see really disappointing travelers when they travel in Europe is not knowing the kind of schedules and the timing for food, restaurants, accommodation, you know, museums and sites. Because some places, oh yeah, the sites are open from 9 to 5. Other places it's 8:32. Some places it's only open in the evening time. And you want to make sure you're doing your research beforehand to know, when is that museum going to be open? When is that site open? Is there days when it's open at night? What are the days they're closed? Because, you know, a lot of places, I've talked about this before, they're closed on Mondays. Well, some places they're closed on different days, or some places it's free. So make sure wherever you want to go, before you come, check to make sure you know the opening hours and opening days, so you don't get someplace and go, yes, I'm here to see the Louvre, and I only have Tuesday here in Paris, and the Louvre is closed on Tuesday. So now we're here in Stockholm, Sweden, and another kind of mistake I see Americans make when they come to Europe is
He shoot this at a later time. He looks thinner. He looks like he lost weight.
kind of over-reliance on Google Maps, or their over-reliance on trusting that Google Maps is correct. Look, I can't tell you how many times I've had, oh, the walk from the train station to the hotel is 8 minutes. But when I actually do it, it's 15. Because it's like Google Maps are made for flat surfaces slightly downhill. When you come to Europe, you've got cobblestones, you've got hills, you've got all kinds of other stuff. So it always takes longer to walk anywhere. Like, if it says 8 minutes, put like 12 or 15 down. Give yourself an idea. Same thing with driving, because it literally calculates a lot of times, it seems at least, like, oh, it's speed limit and distance, so you're there. Like in the US, you know, oh, if somebody's 60 miles away, it's going to be just under 60 minutes. I'll be there in an hour. Here, I mean, literally in parts of Europe, it may be only like, oh, it's 5 miles away, but it'll take you 20 minutes. But the Google Maps will say something else. So just be aware of that. Give yourself a little bit of extra time, okay?
Well, what about Apple Maps? Keep saying Google Maps. Is Apple Maps accurate? Let me know, you guys, in the comments.
I think another thing is a mistake Americans make is they like, I don't want to come to Europe because it's not safe. I've heard about these pickpocket things. I'm like, look, if you're from the US, there's muggings there. There's carjackings there. We don't have that here in Europe. It's a super safe place. Like, you'll see little kids going on public transportation to go to school every day.
Yeah.
No big deal, okay? So don't be scared to come here. I mean, obviously, use your...
I will say I have heard that too about parts of Europe. I guess it's more of just like certain parts of Europe that the muggings, like people trying to steal from you, never like crazy violence, but I do hear about like theft quite a bit. I mean, yeah.
Common sense, like don't leave stuff in your rental car and don't leave your stuff out. I use this safe. I mean, normal safety ideas, you want to make sure you do that here, but overall, you feel so much safer when you're in Europe, whether you're in dangerous Eastern Europe, which I just joke about now with some of these things, or you're going to other places like Paris. Yeah, pickpockets are there, but honestly, thinking that it's going to be unsafe coming here and you should stay home, no, don't let that stop you from coming to Europe. Now, another thing I think we need to talk about, and this is one that's going to probably break your heart or break your perception of your grandma's cooking, and that is thinking you know what the food is really supposed to be like. Now, don't get me wrong, if you go to your local IKEA, or IKEA as we say in the US, their Swedish meatballs, they're pretty spot on with the lingonberries and the mashed potatoes. That's legit stuff. But you know, grandma, you know, who got the recipe from the old country, her spaghetti and meatballs, Yeah, you don't have spaghetti and meatballs in Italy. It's spaghetti is one plate, meatballs are another plate. It's not really a thing. And when you go, you start to see, wait, the perceptions and stereotypes and food stereotypes and ideas I had about these countries are different when I get there. So don't be upset when the grandma Spätzle that you had back home in the US is different than the Spätzle noodles you have in Germany. So be open to some new food, even if it's old favorites you already know about.
Oh, I'm
and when you're going
open
out
to
to
all of
eat,
it.
another problem you might notice or a mistake people make is they're never sure if it's cash or card. I think that's a mistake. People don't check beforehand. What do I need to have when I'm there? Because not every country uses the euro. I mean,
I feel like I would carry both for all of it. Like I'd carry cash and card just to play it safe. But I could see why, it might be an issue for some people.
you're in Sweden and it's the Swedish krona. You have the Swedish crown. They have that. You have the pound when you go to England, but then you have the euro in Germany and you have the euro when you're in Lithuania and you have the euro when you're in Portugal. But the thing is, it's not just making sure you know which money to have. It's also, is it a cash or credit card place? Like here in Sweden, I've been here for a while. I didn't take out any money because you literally pay with your card everywhere. There's places where they don't even take, cash, right? So you want to make sure you
The US is becoming like this. Like less and less places are accepting cash. There is it's like a huge center in the middle of Nashville. It's like a big food court. And every time we go down there, we went for a Predators game, which is like a hockey game. And me and my wife had like $50 or $100 cash on us. And I was like, well, we're out. Let's use the cash for dinner. And it was a no cash like location. So we couldn't even use it at all. It's kind of annoying. Seems weird. It's like, it's legal tender, right? You should be able, everywhere should accept it. But good to know at least that, have both on you.
the kind of money situation where you're going to go, because that's where people have mistakes. They're like, oh, you mean my American Express doesn't work here? No, it doesn't. Visa, MasterCard, or sometimes just cash. And speaking of the cash thing, I think another mistake I hear a lot, and this is what people tell me why they don't go to Europe, is they make the mistake of thinking going to Europe is really a lot more expensive than just staying in the U.S.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. What scares people off is the flight of a plane ticket to Europe. And yes, getting to Europe, if you come in the summer, it is more expensive than flying to Orlando or LA or New York. However, I will tell you this right now. We have been coming to Europe for decades, and we make the money up by staying at hotels here, because hotels and restaurants, I find, are a lot cheaper to really enjoy life here in Europe than it is in the U.S. For example, if I go out to a decent restaurant here, I'm paying the same almost as what I'm paying like at a Chili's or something, and I'm getting way higher quality food. I mean, I'm not trying to knock Chili's, I'm just saying. But what really gets it, I think, is the accommodation. Whereas, like, if I want to get a basic, hotel in New York, $200, $300, $400 just for like a POS hotel room. Whereas in Europe, you'd be getting an outstanding place. Like, I mean, literally, when we come, we'll go for 2 or 3 weeks, and the money we save in accommodation pays for the boys' plane tickets and saves us money that actually it's better for me economically for my business to come filming in Europe than it is for me to travel around the U.S. So don't let the fear of Europe is so expensive get to you. And the thing is, there's parts of Europe that are expensive, Norway, Switzerland.
I never really thought that actually being in Europe was going to be expensive, but the airline tickets, for sure, 100%.
That are expensive, Norway, Switzerland, coming to Stockholm, but if you leave the capital, prices drop a lot. It's like if you compare New York City prices to the rest of the U.S., the prices drop quite a bit, right? So you kind of think about that. Another mistake Americans make when they come to Europe is thinking you can meet people at luggage claim. Look, when they're in the U.S., you actually have the luggage carousels are out in the open. Anybody can meet you there. Here in Europe, it's actually behind security, so you have to get your bags and then go outside. So you won't meet your family right here.
All right.
You meet them outside. And to finish off, we're back here in Greece. We're actually in Hania on Crete. And I think another mistake I see tourists make when they come to Europe is they really think that the magic fanny pack is going to save them. You know the magic fanny pack. It's that feeling you feel when you go on vacation thinking nothing can possibly go wrong. It is safe everywhere I go. Nothing can possibly happen to me if I walk out in the middle of the street to take a picture. Look, you still have to be, smart and be aware of your surroundings when you travel. And I see people that get really upset and kind of give up on their vacation because something bad happens. It does happen. People do get pickpocketed. You do get robbed. You do get sick. You do twist an ankle. These are all things that happen to us, and we keep on traveling. Don't let those things kind of get in your way.
Okay, I'm not carrying that much cash on me.
right? And I think that's one of those things people think is that I'm protected because my magic fanny pack, my magic traveling bag will keep me safe, and that is not the case. You still have to use some common sense when you travel, and I'm specifically talking to the people that like to stand in the middle of the road and try to get pictures of the Eiffel Tower or something when traffic's going. Yeah, people get hit all the time. That's why traffic accidents are probably the #1 cause of death for travelers, so just be aware of that. Okay? Another mistake I see a lot of Americans make when they come here to Europe is they just try to see everything. Like, I want to see 20 countries in 3 days. I mean, it's not that extreme.
No,
but here's something you need to realize
happening.
is that, look, when you're traveling around, do you really want to spend most of your vacation time actually on a train or in an airport or on a plane, or do you want to be exploring, seeing beautiful places like Hanyang and going to eat the fantastic food and see the beautiful museums and laying on the beaches? Or do we want to go and, oh, we got another early flight to get to another island, we got another flight to get to another city? You want to think about that so you can enjoy it. Now, there's nothing wrong with seeing a lot of places. We actually have a video on how to see a lot of places very efficiently. But honestly, if you're trying to do too much, it burns you out, and then you don't really get to enjoy the culture as much. So kind of have that in mind when you're kind of planning out your trip. Another slight mistake tourists make when they do travel in Europe is not realizing that driving etiquette is in different places. For example, here in Greece, the shoulder is like a third lane. Passing? Sure, whenever. Just move over if someone's coming around you. Oh, on the Autobahn? Yeah, there's no speed limit. And if you think you're driving fast, there's somebody coming up behind you in a BMW or Mercedes going even faster, so you don't park in the left lane. And you left lane drivers back in the US that come to Europe, do not do that here, because you can get a ticket for it. And you need to realize there are those differences, and so they make those mistakes like, hey, there's no turns on red here, and you might get a ticket. And if you think the ticket people, like the police that give out those tickets, won't find you because you have a rental car and you're in another country, oh, don't worry. They'll find you and they'll get their money from you. Don't you worry about that, okay? And then I want to say this. This is a mistake I see a lot of tourists make, and that is they just buy a lot of cheap, crappy souvenirs, whether for themselves or for their friends to give back when they go home, and that's a mistake. Because why are you buying 10 €5 keychains when you can buy yourself one, like, 25 € painting from a local artist, or get yourself a cool shirt that's something you'll wear more often than just one time? Because when you give people cheap souvenirs, guess what? They say thank you, and then they throw it away after a week or two. What do you, I mean, how many of you still keep all your snow globes from years ago, or all the little souvenir stuff? No, you end up throwing it away, or you feel bad throwing it away. Better thing to do, send people postcards when you're traveling, because it shows you're thinking of them, and then they get a stamp from another country. Oh, that's kind of cool, they thought of me.
That's what I'm gonna do. Postcards, everyone's getting a postcard.
It's something they might keep, but if they throw it away, you're only out like €2 instead of 5, 10, 25 euros for getting some kind of crappy souvenir, all right? So I hope this helps you know some of the mistakes that tourists make when they come to Europe. What are the mistakes that you see tourists make? Please let us know in the comments below so everybody can be better travelers when they come here to Europe. Also, I gotta say, we have a video on the don'ts of visiting Europe that kind of complements this. It has a little bit more serious tone to it.
Okay, he's got, I'm subscribing to his channel.
From Finland to here in Greece to England to wherever, enjoy your travels, my friends. Bye from here in Hanyang, Crete, in Greece.
All right, that was awesome. I learned a ton from my trip. Really appreciate you guys hopping in and watching this one with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.